Around a month ago, the Rift won a community award. I honestly don't know if I should laugh or cry at this point. So over 2 months ago, I made a video about the Rift. If you're not sure what this is about, you can go and watch both these videos or listen to a very condensed version of the events now. The Rift Trials is a Red Dead Redemption server which was started during the pandemic and offered horse gamers the chance to enjoy horses in Red Dead Redemption 2, without all the shooty bang bang stuff. We really just love horses. The person who started the server would be Chelsea Liz, a person who also loved horses and wanted to create a community for people to come and enjoy it. Logic. The community was fine until a bunch of stuff happened and then it, well, wasn't. The biggest stuffing that happened was when they decided to change the pricing for houses in the Rift. The players could buy a house for $30 in the Rift one shot, but then the team decided to change it up. Now you had to pay monthly, even if you had already paid the $30 for your house. So many people would lose their homes that they already paid for. This would result in a bunch of people coming forward and telling me about other stuffing the Rift had been part of. I would start snooping, and then the creator Chelsea would make a long video explaining why they had to up the price. In very brief, running a server is expensive and they needed the dolans. They made this claim without actually showing their finances. I would make a video responding to Chelsea's video, and my video would get copyright struck because of reasons. I made a second video, removing her footage and voice, meaning she could not take it down because I had someone else read the lines for me. Thank you, Abigail. But this reached the ears of the Discord community, and they would be kind of sort of forced into opening a questionnaire to answer, well, all the questions. And over the course of a week, they would answer exactly nothing. They avoided answering questions, danced around the subject, outright used gaslighting, telling players they had already answered the questions when they hadn't, and overall just put most of the responsibility of the situation onto the players for basically being, well, unreasonable. They would also spam reactions to prevent negative reactions on their posts, and they would also laugh at banned players. Now, I did make a second video about the situation already, and I think everyone's sick and tired of it. But while this was going on in the public Discord, behind the scenes another situation was unfolding, where moderators and CMs were clashing due to the owners and CMs being unwilling to relinquish their tight control. All frustrations were boiling over, and despite mods trying to remain civil, the constant shutdown from the CMs caused more friction than was needed. No chill vibes to be found behind the scenes. Now, this video's main focus is going to be what exactly was going on behind those scenes. We're also going to look at a meeting between the staff that happened over a month ago after the fallout, actually about 3 months ago now, because I had a family crisis that forced me into a move. I am still recovering from whiplash. And then a brief overview covering the aftermath of all of this and how the Rift responded. And hopefully we can all find an answer as for why all of this happened. Spoiler, there really isn't an answer, but I'm going to psychoanalyze this shit out of this. But before we get into all of that, I'd like to thank my Ko-Fi supporters for being more awesome than getting a hamster called Napoleon. On with the video. To start this video off, I am first going to clear up a few points that were either left hanging from the previous video or things that I just downright got wrong. DDoS attacks do not happen just because you pissed someone off, but they happen more often than not because people want to steal your server. Point number 2. The reason the Rift has 3 servers is because that it is apparently what you get when you sign up. Point number 3. Allegedly, the Rift uses the CFX host provider. I could not find proof of this, but this is what is being claimed. Point number 4. The mods running around naked were for tests. The mods running around naked in the game were for tests, not just to be naked for fun. CFX had changed their policy of NSFW content, so the Rift had to ensure there weren't ways for players to get around restrictions, and that's why they were skinny dipping. Fun times. And then finally, we have the KKK situation, which has been talked about to death, but let's talk about it once more for old time's sake. In May of 2024, the Rift was scouting for some new scripts, and they came across the Gamer Kim. To see if the scripts worked and how they work, they could go into the Gamer Kim server and test it out. When they loaded in, they were dressed in KKK garb. Holy shit. Specifically, one of their mods was dressed like that. A little shooketh, one of the Rift mods would ask, and the dev of this Discord would say, "In my opinion, it doesn't matter what type of character you go in and inspect the goods with. This is not a roleplay server. I get that, but the clansman choice is a bit weird. Yeah, no fucking shit. As of today, the Rift does not associate with these people anymore. Now, an image of the Rift mods in the garb would begin circulating the internet. Around the same time, the images of the naked mods also started circulating, but there was a very specific reason for this. A person called Serenity was given full access to the staff's private Discord, and she could essentially see their pixelated tatas. She would grab these KKK pics and nudity images and would share them around without giving full context for why it was happening. This is more or less where a lot of the Discord for the Rift happened. Now that we have cleared up some of the points from the previous video, we can now look at some complaints the mods had about their treatment in the Rift, and one problem that cropped up was favoritism. The favoritism problem is something that has been mentioned a lot, however, I only got a few examples of it. As such, I do want to make it clear that both these stories were told by one person. We will later see a little bit more of this during the meeting, but for now, let's just dive into the examples. In the Rift, there were 7 ranks in moderators. The first group are the helpers, the real estate, the hosts in training, and the hosts. And then you got the red air management, which is hobo. And then you got community management and Rift management. The divide sat between the host and the community management, with hobo just being sort of a wild card. Hobo is the developer of the Rift, just to make that clear. Now, to make things easier on everyone, including myself, I'm going to start referring to upper management as the CMs and the lower group simply as mods. But keep in mind, there are different ranks within those groups. This is just to kind of keep my head straight. Now, the mods were not always treated well. They were often stepped over or ignored in favor of the CMs to do the heavy lifting or even be disregarded. As an example, one mod, Lolcat, was in the process of talking with a player about some rule-breaking behavior in the server. While she was handling the situation, 2 other mods would do the banning for her while she was still talking to the guy. It was, to put it mildly, pretty embarrassing. The point is that this was Lolcat's situation to handle. She was in the middle of speaking with this dude when Robin decided to just jump in and do what she wanted. This resulted in Lolcat being understandably kinda pissed off. Robin had simply railed over her without considering how this might look from the outside. Now, the mods were often considered lesser, so much so that when the mods made recommendations or offered up ideas, they were often shut down or ignored in favor of CM ideas. Here is an example of this. Keep in mind that Soul is part of the mod team, but they are deep friends with the CM team. In this situation, Lolcat would give a very good idea, which allows you to edit the circle of the lunge, edit the speed of the horse, and make it jump and change direction, which is a cool thing to add to the game. A lot of the players were excited, but Fenris and Sol would both shoot the idea down. It's not overly aggressive, but when this is happening constantly, it becomes a trend, and that can become exhausting to push against the whole time. But for now, Lolcat went ahead and told one of the CMs what had happened. Despite everyone else loving her idea, these 2 silently tried to kill it before it could get started. Anne promises here that she will be talking to them soon. And this would be sort of empty words, because this would be one of the many times that Lolcat tried to get them to do something. Now, Anne would end up talking to them, and the response that she would give Lolcat would be, "They seemed receptive to what we had to say and were empathetic to your side. They did struggle a little understanding the spice, which I would have brought up but forgot in the call. I'm so sorry. They did assure us that any suggestion that you made and they weren't aimed at you personally at all, and it was just about the suggestion, not about the person making it." Lolcat would once again share something that really bugged her. Now, a meeting was planned to discuss their grievances just days before my live video landed. As a result of my video, the meeting was pushed out to the point where my second video came out before they actually had a meeting to discuss some of the behavioral issues in the Rift. They would only have the meeting 45 days after Lolcat requested it. Hot damn. But now we can finally go back to the 18th of March when my video was reposted. Sorry. What follows are the discussions behind the scenes in the mod chat between the mods and the CMs and the aftermath of this event. To keep the timeline and properly show what happened, I'm going to show comments as they are in order this time. When the debacle started, the mods were told not to intervene and the CMs ran the show. This was fine up until it wasn't. So, it begins. The first major comment comes from Sol, who says, "Hold on, let me react spam." This was a tactic they used to prevent players from leaving negative emojis on their announcements. This had originally only been suspected and alleged. Now we have absolute proof of it. Lolcat would also do so, and Chelsea would thank them for it. They would further spam reports on my video. At least they were encouraging these reports. This would at least be shown by my own emails, which showed players reporting both of my videos in their entirety for privacy complaints. Okay then, this would be brought up again later. They were adamant that by reporting a video enough, it would be taken down. They also say that the copyright strike on my video merely quote-unquote got to it first, and that reports would take down the video eventually. Meaning they are advocating and supporting false mass reporting of a video to have it taken down. But as we can see at this stage, the moderators were really rooting for the CMs to sort out the question thread, but they were not exactly friendly with their players, telling them to touch grass, and for one player in particular, Blix, to get out of their frickin' general chat. The mods were also showing frustration that they couldn't control the conversation at this point. One mod would note that the KKK situation was not well explained, and there are some misconstrued details. Now we have cleared it up at the start of the video, so I won't hammer it home here again. This would be addressed in Chelsea's reaction to the situation in the Discord with her announcement. At this point, the support is still firmly in the CM's camp. The mods are happy to be supportive, but we do see some of them hankering to get out and help. Let me just show you very briefly how the conversations were going at this point. As we can see here, players were asking the same questions over and over and over and over and over again, and nothing was being given to them. One key question players were asking was, why had people been banned? By this point, a few players had been banned, but nothing substantial was said for the reasoning. There was a rule in the Rift that they didn't discuss bans, but players were concerned, because rumors were flying around that if you said the wrong thing, you would get banned. So it would have been smart to, kill those rumors by telling them why. Just a thought. They also desperately wanted the CMs to explain what was going on with the finances and to clear up all the little tidbits my video had discussed, but they were never given a proper answer. Now, at this point, for the majority of the question thread's existence, which had been 4 days by now, and one of the CMs had taken care of all the responses, as we can see by these screens. Even players were becoming concerned for Anne, as she was the only one dealing with this. So again, the mods asked if they could step in, but they were not allowed to help.
Denied!
So it's around this time that a few players who had been asking questions started a voice chat in the Rift. The voice chat had been started by these 5 players because some of the players' comments were being deleted in the Discord and they couldn't discuss the situation in the Rift itself. So they started a voice chat to talk about what was going on. The mods quickly picked up on it. We also see another snide comment towards Blix, and then we see another towards Evelyn. Oh god, Blix is typing again. Evelyn, in a quite snobbish tone, asked me, "I just want to know, silly, why are you here?" And my mic is still broken. Because I'm a community manager? What kind of question? What? Should have said that. That's diabolical. Sorry, I'm being very snidey here, but they were kind of snidey, weren't they? Now, at this point in time, the voice chat was also still being discussed. The helpers wanted to help, but the mods refused their help. Again. So what was going on in the voice chat? Well, the 5 players who went in there were discussing the situation. They were being shut down constantly in the general chat, some even getting their comments deleted, and so they moved it over to the voice chat. What most likely happened for why they were banned was due to the harassment policy and fear-mongering and talking about something that you weren't allowed to talk about. So it was the sort of idea that they were sort of stoking the fires and that's why they got banned. But it feels kind of weird when your entire community wants to talk about something and get the, the pus out of the wound essentially. And what you're doing is just wrapping it up in duct tape to just create more pus. Like, what are you doing? Or what type of tape are they using? Like, super glue? I don't think that's tape, but they're using something that's not fucking helping the wound. But the whole group would get banned for making a shit-talking voice chat. They were banned by association and for talking. Literally talking about a situation that pertained to the Rift. Okay then. I want to point out that during the swim situation where everyone was angry at Hannah, the players also created a voice chat to talk about what was going on. There were a lot of people in that voice chat, myself included. And you know what the mods did? They jumped in and talked to us. You know what happened then? Players calmed down. Just saying. Moving on. The next point is laughing at players who were banned. So, during the whole fiasco, a player would get banned, a member would ask, "Can I giggle?" And Source, one of the mods, would say, "It falls under chill vibes, so good." People obviously called them out on it. They denied that they ever laughed at a ban and just never brought it up again. And here we have proof that they did in fact laugh at a player, even getting praise for doing so. The highest praise for your "this falls under chill vibes, so yes" comment. That was Chef Kiss. And then Source responds, "My tired 20 IQ 2 brain cell powerhouse of a brain came up with that, but thank you." You're not helping. But we also see something else. The mods are starting to ask the CMs to share a list of bans, or at least giving people an idea for why people were banned. And then it finally starts to turn. One of the mods would say the following: "To be honest, I do feel quite sad that ponies feel like they are pleading with us in the only way they're allowed. This is not the environment we want to cultivate. I'm saddened that this is the impact of all the tension and uncertainty. While I do completely understand our frustrations, I do think we should swallow our pride a bit and, while maintaining boundaries of course, try to reach them where they are. This thread was about informing ponies and answering questions as best we could with what information we can give. And unfortunately, some people have acted in bad faith." A second mod would reply, with how many people who haven't spoken came out of the woodworks to say, I agree. Something we aren't seeing is going on, and we need to sink to eye level." That's like, this is the smartest thing any of them has actually said up until this point. I'm just saying. Sorry. The other mods would agree, saying that the players are agreeing with sentiments against the mods and CM, so the mods were becoming frustrated. But some are still pushing back, saying that it's a difficult line to toe. You don't want to start with witch hunts. You want people to feel safe here. The other mod would suggest that they at least reiterate why people were banned, if only to ensure them that others weren't going to be banned for nothing. Keep in mind that according to the mods, at this point they only knew what the CMs had told them about the bans. They had no idea why these people had been banned. They only knew they were troublemakers or going against TOS of the Rift. They further point out that because Evelyn and others were banned for seemingly talking from the outside perspective, this is painting the mods in a very terrible light, but the CMs would not buckle. Of course not. But the mods once again ask if they can just help with the questionnaire because they really want to bridge the gap between CMs and players. They make the very fair point that the players and mods have a far closer relationship with the players than the CMs do because they are running and hosting events and are far more active in the Discord than the CMs were. All of this was true. They would be denied! The next point that comes up is the reaction. So they had a no reaction rule to the comments to ensure that people weren't being dogpiled. This is good. But not everyone was keeping to those rules, and people asked that everyone respect that rule. The mods would once again ask if they can please help. I want to make it clear by this point, the entire questionnaire was being answered by one or two individuals, and players were becoming frustrated because no answers were being given, and the reactions from the CMs was borderline corporate. The helpers and mods wanted to jump in order to give a more personalized reaction, something that just showed that they cared. But the CMs responded with, "We're tired, we'll get back when we can." Mofo, you're tired because you're answering all the damn questions. If you let someone else answer the damn questions, then you won't be so freaking tired. Sorry. Much the same response they had been doling out for the players. And when mods pushed back, it was a "we hear you," echoing the tactics they had been using with players again. So by now, they are shutting down their mods and helpers in the same manner they are shutting down their players. And then Chelsea reacted with a "this" to a comment. And yeah, by this point, the reaction situation was not being handled well at all. A mod points out that they really need to be sensitive and careful right now. The other mods began to air their grievances. The current strategy is not working. We should be helping. Please let us help. They understand the exhaustion, but they're offering themselves up on a platter on this point. Some comments follow from the mods. They view every single one of us as an enemy. They see us as one unit. They are frustrated with all of us. We are being dragged in. Let us speak. Of course, the mods talking about all the players. The conversation continues. The CMs really don't want to be seen as a villain, and the mods once again point out that it would be so easy to just let people know why these individuals were banned. People are scared. They don't know if they are going to get banned for no damn reason. The mods say that this is not the way. The CMs need to change this rule for this situation. It is escalating and causing a lot of stress for people. Most of the other mods agree. And then a mod points out what everyone else knew. The players were being herded in circles. If you had taken the time to look at the previous video, you would have easily recognized the roundabouts they put players on. Players would ask, they would give a non-answer, players would push for an answer, the CMs would say, they already answered this question, basically gaslighting players into silence. This was happening constantly. No answers were being given, they didn't want to answer anything, so the players and the mods just became more and more frustrated. I just want to point it out that the mods were making it so easy on these CMs, willing to share screens, willing to step in to take the brunt of the players' anger, even offering solutions, and the CM's reaction was, we are trying, but they attack, or it's not enough. Because you're not answering the question, you're deflecting. It's really that simple! The mods point out, very fairly, that they were being demonized for their silence, which yes, did happen. People were pissed with the mods for not standing up, for allowing this to go on. The close relationship that the mods had built with the players acted as a double-edged sword. The players were feeling abandoned by the people they trusted, which, you know, makes sort of sense. One of the CMs would say that respect goes both ways. The mod pitches in that the helpers are there to help. Just let them help.
Deny!
Amanda asks, but how would this help to make the CMs seem like the good guys? The mod asks, if that is really their goal now? And the CM says no, but we just need them to listen to anything we're saying. The conversation continues with the mods pointing out that nothing the CMs do will change the players' thinking at this point. Again, they ask to communicate, and I'm going to read out the CM's reply here. I am sorry to say this, but this is on them. We are being incredibly transparent now. No, you're not. If they don't respect us, it's out of our hands. No, it's not. Some people are genuinely trying to listen. Others have made up their mind and only want to see us crawl through that dirt. No, they don't. Another mod asks, perhaps ask the players if they would like to hear from the mods.
Deny!
And one mod openly disagrees that there has been any transparency outside of stating what you are and are not willing to disclose. Killy points out that they are trying to listen, but the mods simply say they don't agree. Another CM, Mercy, jumps in and asks why they should change the rule about bans now, because it will help players to understand. That's literally the thing. You want to do the best for your players? They're having a rough time. You do the thing that's going to help them. I don't understand why it's such a problem. Another mod points out that CMs have background info, but the mods have upfront information about the players and how they feel. And then one mod points out that, I mean, it's kind of weird that once we started saying we want to talk, everyone else pops up on that chat. Like it was just Anne and Mercy yesterday, now everyone's there because we asked to talk. Weird in my opinion. Please everyone, keep in mind how stressed upper staff are. We've been dealing with this situation every day almost non-stop since Friday. We are gassed. So please can we have a gentle and kind discussion?
Deny!
And they are right. The mod discussion thread had been pretty much empty until the mods started pushing to say something, and suddenly they were being flooded by CMs to get them to be quiet. Muzzling much? Another mod says they can help. They are denied again. And then one mod says this, and I'm gonna read it out. I think strong relationships between communities of people and leadership come from relationships of give and take. This has been something I voiced long since before the announcement of changes for RF Patreon requirements, and is something that I still stand by. Right now, players feel like they cannot trust us because they don't get to understand the bigger pictures. I think it should be within our consideration to adjust our leadership style to reflect the values of our community and demonstrate some amount of flexibility. Perhaps it could be something we consider doing for a trial period to see how it goes. That would demonstrate to the players the transparency they are asking for without commitment to doing it forever, which in turn protects leadership. The amount of effort that these people are going through in order to step within your boundaries is ridiculous. And the fact that you let this go on for so long is even more ridiculous. To help you cope with the stupidity, here is a man being chased by a train. That's where I'm gonna end it, because it just keeps going in circles. There was really no solution. The bots would never help. the CMs would continue sending the players in circles, and the players would just become more and more frustrated. But let's take a look at the meeting. Just a quick recap, the meeting was supposed to be a place where the mods, helpers, and CMs could sit down and discuss some issues with communication between these groups. One of the major problems was that some mods felt like they were being shut down or ignored when they offered other ideas or input, as we can see by the reaction from the CMs in the previous section. During the meeting, these issues were brought up, that the helpers felt unheard, and the response was, "We're sorry you feel that way. We appreciate your thoughts, but the CMs have decided against it." The meeting touched on a lot of problems, but mostly it devolved into CMs sharing personal stories and how difficult life was and how difficult everything was, meaning very little changed or was promised to change, echoing how the players were treated in the question thread. But they finally shared the finances. It only took them a month, but here we are, and you have to pay to see it. Hell. The aftermath of both the video and this meeting took some time to really punch. The mods and helpers continued working and the CMs moved on. They continued to pretend everything was fine, posting updates and announcements, but there was a certain lack of enthusiasm for the game. Most of the people who had raised concerns were active community members, so seeing the mods and devs simply pretend everything was fine was a little disheartening to see. However, it already came to a head on the 10th of May when Lolcat would finally drop this statement. After months of careful consideration, heavy thoughts, and consistent bullying with no assistance from management, I have decided to leave the server. I wish some of you the best, and I wish some of you learn how to grow into an adult, because a lot of you all act like middle schoolers. Cough cough, Sol, Robin, and Fenris. I'm getting tired of the feed dragging, the laziness from staff, the weird favoritism we claim to not have. It's all too much, and I have other places to spend my time and other people who will actually appreciate the work and efforts I put into the service. Clearly, there's a problem where not only ponies, but staff as well are complaining. I've been complaining for a very long time actually, but y'all just drag your feet. I made my first report directly to the CMs in August of 2024. That's almost a year ago. Why am I still being bullied? Why hasn't my message in our group chat been responded to in 2 months? This is all so bullshit and I'm done. You all have used and manipulated me for too long and I'm going to expose the truth. I'm done and tired. Do not reach out to me via DM. Do not attempt to contact me with some half-assed apology now that I've finally been pushed over my threshold. And don't claim you were ever my friend if you stood back and watched me get bullied for almost 12 straight months. You didn't care and now neither do I. Go ahead and delete this message if you like. My voice will be heard whether you like it or not. And just so none of y'all can have a meltdown, I'll do it for you. Oh, and also, fuck you, Sol, Fenris, and Robin. You guys are the nastiest people on this server, and you are like a cancer eating away at the success of the Rift. If you really love the server, then you would change. And if you refuse to change, then leave and let them thrive without you. Y'all are bullies, and you know you are. I've seen the proof, and so has a lot of people. Also, telling ponies privileged information is crazy. Cough, cough, Martin, you little favoritismers. That was a mouthful. These comments would result in other mods saying they felt disappointed in what happened and it should have been handled better. I wish we could see more of these messages, but this is all we have. After this, Peachy, one of the most prominent content creators for the Rift, would make an announcement saying she was stepping away from the Rift and she was done with them. And yet despite all of this, despite all the controversy and horrible treatment of their players and mods, they would win the Community of the Year award. Hot fuckity damn! I'm guessing these guys don't know about pony drama? That this is what happens when Discord community managers quietly hide the questions thread in a little back end on the Discord, when they put proverbial clamps on their players and mods, when they silence, browbeat, and gaslit people into silence. They win awards that should never have been considered for. I mean, think about it. I was banned from the Rift because I made a video that never reached them, that I never shared on their Discord server. But because I said something they didn't agree with, they banned me. So what's gonna happen if you say something in another Discord and they see you, and then they just ban you? Well, and now let's take a moment to talk about cults. Okay, making a claim that the Rift is a cult is not the point of this section. I am not saying that the Rift is a cult. Please understand that. I don't want to get sued again. But what the point is of this section is to highlight how cult behavior overlaps with the ways that certain Discord groups regulate and control their players. Again, I am not saying the Rift is a cult. I am saying that some of their actions have a basis in cult-like behavior. In the Freedom of Mind Resource Center, they offer a little insight into how cults function with the BITE method, and I quote, BITE model describes cult-specific methods. BITE model describes cults as specific methods to recruit and maintain control over people. BITE stands for Behavior, Information, Thought, and Emotional Control. The BITE model should be used within the influence continuum to help determine authoritarian control. Not every group or relationship uses every one of these. Some are universal, such as deception, information control, indoctrinating people to distrust critics and former members, or installing phobias to make people afraid of questioning or leaving. End quote. Cults use these methods to control people, and by doing so, they can absolutely manipulate people into thinking a specific way. The one we're going to specifically look at is the information panel, and I quote, Deception. Deliberately withhold information, distort information to make it more acceptable, systematically lie to the cult member. Compartmentalize information into outsider versus insider doctrines. Ensure that information is not freely accessible. Control information at different levels and missions within group. Allow only leadership to decide who needs to know what and when. Encourage spying on other members. Impose a buddy system to monitor and control member. Report deviant thoughts, feelings, and actions to leadership. Ensure that individual behavior is monitored by group. Just one here from emotional control as well. Manipulate and narrow the range of feelings. Some emotions and/or needs are deemed as evil, wrong, or selfish. Not entirely there, but I didn't think it worth mentioning because the chill vibe concept was so prevalent here. I'm only reading these that do have some correlation with the Rift. The point here is that the Rift is using some of these tactics to shut down conversation. They are utilizing these methods to blatantly avoid any sort of repercussions for their actions. Does this mean they are a cult? No. But it does show how they have convinced themselves that their actions, despite rooted in manipulation tactics, is the correct way to go about it. The pyramid style of control is another red flag. In the Rift, you have the players at the bottom, the helpers and the mods in the middle, the developers and CMs in the same line, and then you have the owners right at the top. But this creates a dissonance between the players and the mods because there is one more step between them. The second you start creating rooms and discussions outside the main discussions between your mods, you are creating a rift between them, no pun intended, and making it impossible for people to truly create lasting friendships. A Discord is not a company. You can certainly have a person at the top who is the boss. That is fine. This will also immediately create the I must be good to progress mentality, meaning if someone is a helper and they feel like the CMs or mods get more time with the top brass, they're going to be more willing to play by the rules than actually push back against poor decision making. This creates a yes man conformity. Your mods and workers will not push back if they believe they might lose their positions or their chance at promotion. Same with the players. If they believe they have any risk of losing something that they have put emotional or financial value into, they're not going to push back. In the case of the Rift, I think it worked a little differently. It felt more like a sort of emotional blackmail. Whenever anyone pushed back, the CMs and owners reverted to pity parties in order to make the others feel guilty for ever speaking up. You can see this in every message these guys post. They are so careful not to rock the boat because they have been subconsciously trained to believe that whatever they say is wrong. It drove me up the walls.